covered in gray ash. Look at it there. So that was convincing people outside those areas that it is time to go, but in some cases it was too late and entire families were lost. Tuesday, new activity, more eruptions pushing rescuers back and sending them running for their own lives. Loudspeakers yelling for people to evacuate while sirens were blaring, and people just walking along the highway trying to get out as the traffic was just stalled, people carrying their belongings. Now, still 2 days after the eruption, the ground's still too hot for rescuers to get into most places. And the major hazard now is something called pyroclastic flow. So that is made up of fast-moving ash, rock, and volcanic gases, and it can reach temperatures as high as 700 degrees Celsius. And as it covers homes, it basically entombs. There will be little chance of anyone found alive. The National Institute of Forensic Sciences says of the bodies that have been recovered, only 23 have been identified so far. Officials are cross-checking census data with aerial photos of homes, and they're registering people in shelters and lists of the missing and the injured. They're trying to get IDs on people. But this disaster, authorities are reporting nearly 2,000 people are staying in shelters. 6 people were reported to be headed to Texas. They were children to be treated for burns. The U.S. Air Force is providing a plane to transport them out of the country. The death toll from Sunday's volcanic eruption in Guatemala has now reached 69, and there are fears the death toll will rise as the search for the missing resumes today. That search, an arduous task, as described by the firefighters who are undertaking it.
It's very, very hot. The soil is very unstable. We cannot be walking around or something. We are just stepping in woods. The shoes, they have been completely destroyed due to the heat, because it's a lot of heat. And it's very, very difficult to breathe as well.
Only 17 of the dead have been identified so far because of the intense heat from the volcanic debris. And Eric Clemente, he's a volcanologist and associate professor of geosciences at Denison University. He's also a writer for Discover magazine, and he joins me this morning from Granville, Ohio. Good morning, Eric. Welcome to our program.
Yeah, thank you.
So this volcano is known as the Volcano of Fire. That's what it's called. Tell us more about what makes this volcano unique, and when you see what it has done in Guatemala, what goes through your mind?
Well, it's one of the most active volcanoes in Guatemala, and it has quite a wide variety of types of eruptions it has. It can produce lava flows, it can produce explosions. This was an explosive eruption that happened yesterday, and the flows that it generates are these hot ash flows, what they call pyroclastic flows, that are debris and volcanic ash, particles of volcanic glass, hot gases that are moving at hundreds of kilometers per hour and at hundreds of degrees C. So I see this, and it looks like what we expect at a volcano like Fuego, where you get these explosive eruptions that generate flows that come rushing down the river valleys and the sides of the volcano.
Is one type of another or another eruption easier to predict?
It pretty much isn't. The signs that you're going to have before a volcanic eruption are going to be pretty similar at all volcanoes. You have earthquakes, you have gases being emitted, you might have the volcano begin to inflate. But in terms of whether, let's say, the eruption in Hawaii was something easier to predict than the one at Fuego, there really isn't that difference. They're just going to be trying to figure out, you can see the signs, but sometimes it's really hard to figure out how large an eruption is going to be based on those signs that it's giving.
And you mentioned earthquakes, and we know after there is an earthquake, there's aftershocks. After a volcano erupts, is there something similar?
Well, that's going to depend a lot on what caused the eruption in the first place. So that if it's a volcano, Fuego erupts quite frequently. So there's always new magma, new material coming into the volcano that can cause just repeated eruptions. This is the second eruption this year at the volcano. So many times there are lots of times where an eruption might be a one-off, but there's also times that this could be the start of a period where it's going to be erupting more.
And Eric, a lot of people look at what happened, as you mentioned, in Hawaii, and now we have Guatemala. Is there some sort of connection here?
No, there really isn't any connection. This is on the planet at any given time. There's 10 to a dozen volcanoes erupting at the same time. So this just happened to be two noteworthy eruptions happening in prominent places. So there really isn't a geologic connection between the two.
Volcanologist Eric Clementi. Eric, thank you so much.
Thank you.
A grim search continues in Guatemala tonight for victims of a massive volcanic eruption that buried entire villages in thick ash and mud. Already 65 bodies have been found. John Vanavali-Rao has that story.
Dramatic video shows the moment of sheer panic as people near the foot of the volcano tried to flee the ash cloud, which moved so fast it caught residents completely off guard, engulfing this police vehicle. The hunt for survivors, a frantic one, with ash drifts and mud flows burying neighborhoods. For some, there was no escape.
No tengo ropa con que cambiarme.
This man says he lost everything, including 2 grandchildren. Another says, my entire family is buried. The volcano, one of Central America's most active, hasn't blown like this in more than 40 years, sending a mix of hot gas and volcanic debris smashing into villages, lava setting homes on fire and trapping some inside. She says, I heard screams of, get out of here. Some Guatemalans were airlifted to safety, with evacuations affecting more than 3,000 people, many put up in shelters. Here, a baby given an oxygen mask. Emergency crews rushing in to help the many injured. At times, those crews sent running, fearing more volcanic ash was on its way. They said some of the dead were so thickly covered, they looked like statues.
Hemos decidido convocar
Guatemala's president declaring a state of emergency and 3 days of national mourning, with the number of dead expected to rise, and fears the volcano may erupt again. John Vanavali-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
Venite, Beteta.
Esta mierda no tiene para acercar bien. No.